This week on Streaming Star Wars with Ammo and Fletzer, we break down the first two episodes of The Mandalorian with our special guest Clayton Sandell of ABC News. We get your take on the Disney Plus experience and revisit the biggest controversy of A New Hope. We've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Yes, I bet you have.
It's episode 2 of Streaming Star Wars here on a Friday night. I am Ammo, he is Fletzer, and we are here to talk about the greatness that is Streaming Star Wars and The Mandalorian. The first two episodes drop on this Friday. Well, the first one was Tuesday, and the second one was today. And we all are scared of things, right? I'm scared of dogs. Pete doesn't like heights, and The Mandalorian doesn't like droids. We're going to talk about it all here tonight on Beyond the Blast Doors. Pete, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. So this is tonight's drink is Johnny Walker Black Label triple shot on the ice because
He's all in. He's all in, folks.
we are all in here on a Friday night because we run a spoiler-heavy, family-friendly, alcohol-induced show. No, seriously, we're really excited to be here tonight. We have a few new tricks up our sleeves tonight. Patience is a virtue, and we are in a new era here because this is the first time, Pete, that you and I are getting to have a conversation about Star Wars in a brand new era of Star Wars. Star Wars will never be what it was before Tuesday. It's just an incredible time to be here because we have now experienced our first Star Wars live-action television, and I'm honestly overwhelmed because in the last week, basically what we've gotten is an hour and 12-minute movie, and we get 6 more episodes. And, like, first things first, and we want to get to people in the live chat because we are so overwhelmed already by the folks that are with us. Scotty, I see in there. Hollow Chronicles guys are in there. I see Royal Farm Boy, Charlie Skywalker, Steve is in there, patron of mine. So, like, we're so excited that you all are here with us live. But we just kind of want to start, like, with this. Okay. How did you, Pete, find the first episode of The Mandalorian? Because I live in the Midwest,
Right.
and I woke up at like 7:15 in the morning and found the episode, but apparently folks were able to watch it Monday night. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I saw there were some people who had figured out how to finagle their Xboxes so that they could fake out the system and end up getting it a couple hours early. You know, I was planning on staying up, and then I realized that I did the math, and coming from the East Coast to the West Coast, it was like going to be 3 in the morning, and so I just woke up at like 5:30 and turned it on and went through first thing I did was I turned it on, found it through my my phone because I got the Verizon the free Verizon deal, so I went through that, and then I got it on my phone. Then I went onto my smart TV and I downloaded it there, and then I soaked in like the first 10 minutes of The Mandalorian, and then I had a couple things to do, and then I went to it. So it was great though. It was actually pretty easy for me, and I know some people had some challenges.
Yeah, it was a pretty fun opportunity to just like witness it all as like it started hitting social media because it was like a ripple effect, and it was almost like from coast to coast, and that was really cool. But I had a lot of fun. It was like really satisfying. I woke up on ahead of my alarm. I'm able to get the program downloaded, and I didn't have any of these tech issues. It was fairly smooth for you, right? When you download the app,
really easy. Actually, the biggest problem was that there was some glitching on the Xbox version. So I've now downloaded it on my phone, on my smart TV, on my Xbox, on my iPad. I watched The Mandalorian, I think for the 3rd time during my kids' dance practice. So it was just great to have with me. So
what does that say about you as a parent? You shouldn't you be present for your kid? I mean, I know we're only a few minutes in the show, but come on, man. You got to be present for your kid.
I was in another room with
my God.
headphones on watching it. Come on. And my son appreciated it. When we got home, he said, "Can I watch that with you?" I said, "Yes." And then I watched it for the 4th time with my son. So it was a family thing after all.
The poll for this coming week for streaming Star Wars will be rating or questioning your ability to be a father. No, it's, I think you're a good human being. You know what's crazy though? In the first 24 hours of Disney Plus existence for the public consumption, 10 million subscribers. And I'm reading about this. They're projecting by 2025. Listen to this, Pete. 103 million subscribers. That's what they're projecting based on this first 24-hour period.
Wow.
When Bob Iger and Alan Horn say that Disney Plus is the future of not just Star Wars, but it's the future of Disney, they're not exaggerating the truth. I mean, every property that they own now lives here, and this is what Disney looks like moving forward. I was just having this conversation today in Walmart with somebody, is the fact that I don't know how much longer we're going to a store to actually buy the DVDs, because I think with Disney Plus, it's just completely changed the landscape here, man.
Yeah, well, I I do have to say, my kids wanted to buy. I think it was The Lion King. They wanted to download it from the iTunes store, and I was like, I want to wait just a couple more weeks till we get Disney Plus, so I don't have to buy it again. And, I mean, think about that. I mean, I'm not really good with numbers, but 100 million or 100 million subscribers times $7 a month. That's a pretty decent payday every month just from Disney Plus. Never mind all the merchandising and all the other things that come with all the programs that are on there. And I have to say, I think, and I'll ask you the question. I did make some great discoveries on Disney Plus. Like, my favorite non-Star Wars show has to be the Jeff Goldblum show.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. And also, so that's a great idea, because everyone in the live chat right now is actually sharing how they came across Disney Plus, how they found the first episode. They're talking about the grind of waiting all day as a teacher. Scotty's in here as a teacher, and he had to go through the entire school day today before he was able to watch the second episode. At least that's what I was able to deduce from the live chat. So that is, torture and pain. I woke up. I have Fridays off, man. I woke up in my boxer briefs, and I was like, let's watch some Star Wars. So no, it was for me. Yeah, today I had no problems at all. And I'm just really excited about just being able to sift through the app. Streaming Star Wars, what we're doing here is we're talking about just hit my mic. We're talking about the Star Wars content on Disney Plus, but we also want to talk about Disney Plus just from a functionality standpoint. And it's really cool, I think, to be able to search for the content that you want, buy the content that you want, and not by genre. Yep. So, this, you want Star Wars, you watch the Star Wars. I think, honestly, guilty pleasure here, my favorite Star Wars my favorite Disney Plus content that is not Star Wars.
Yeah.
Johnny Tsunami. I got Brink, man. My childhood is back. The Disney Channel movies, the classics, they're back, and I'm so happy about it. I am going to watch, what is that, The Phantom of the Omniplex? I think wasn't that the one with Mickey Rooney in it? I just all that stuff is there, and it's so cool. And everyone, what's crazy is all the Hannah Montana stuff is on there. Which
I was going to say, have you been watching Hannah Montana instead of The Mandalorian?
Don't give me that crap. No, I was not.
How about I see a great crossover. We'll have Hannah Mandalorian, and that's that's a horrible.
We'll have
idea.
Billy Ray Cyrus and Lil Nas X come on the show, and they'll do a concert for us. But that was my sister's show, my sister's generation show, and so it's just cool to see how all these different audiences are coming to the platform and really enjoying it. Love how everyone in here in the live chat is sharing how they came out and found the episode, and they're starting to talk about the show. So real quick, Steve, before we dive into our interview segment and what we liked and didn't like, I mean, can we just have a quick conversation about what we like here with the Mandalorian?
Sure. Yeah. Why don't we before we bring on Clayton, let's just why don't we just each say one thing that we love about it? To me, the look of it. I was just saying to Andy from Holly Chronicles before we got on that to me, there's nothing that looks bad about it. Even the things that are clearly puppet or animatronic or a mix of CGI, it's all done in a way that it's motion picture quality. It's theater quality.
I'm really blown away by that. And I was watching with David Gilbert today from Beyond the Blast Doors, and we were both just saying how great this looks. It feels like we're watching something that was meant for the theater, the scale of it, the texture of it, the definition of everything. And speaking of definition, all the Star Wars is apparently uploaded in 4K Dolby Surround Sound. So if you have not watched any of the Star Wars, you can do that. And, of course, you can catch McClunky, because that is also a thing now in A New Hope. Does that bother you that we have a fourth version of Who Shot First and it's still not Han?
I found a clip of somebody asking Harrison Ford during the Force Awakens.
The Weintraub interview.
And they asked him. They said, "Harrison, who shot first? You or Greedo?" And he said, I don't care. And honestly, at this point, I don't care either. And actually, I'm glad. You know what? If we're all gonna rush to that scene to see if it changed, I'm glad it changed again, and I love it. And McClunky is now the new trending Twitter phrase. So let's have it. Let's go all McClunky on everything. I'm all for it.
Let's do it. Hey, by the way, you're watching Streaming Star Wars Episode 2. We're going to be doing a spoiler conversation of Episodes 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian. We want you to know that we are really excited about this show tonight. In case you didn't know, you can always follow us on Twitter at Streaming Star Wars. It's at StreamingSW. And if you want to come back and watch this show at a later time, because we're about to enter the spoilers section of the show, from here on out, it's going to be spoilers. No worries. You can always catch us on the Rewind here on the Beyond the Blast Doors YouTube channel. We'll have that in the Streaming Star Wars playlist. And now let's say you would prefer to listen to the show, okay, later on when you're ready for the spoiler conversation or you want to listen to our conversation again. We have you covered, podcast version. Wherever you listen to podcasts, just search Around the Galaxy. You know that as Pete Fletzer's show that he does, has the best of the best guests in the Star Wars community. And so do we over at Beyond the Blast Doors. But this man is strictly audio. And where you can find his strictly audio show, you can also find this show that's also audio and video. I think that all made sense. I gave a little bit of a tease. We have a guest with us this week, Pete, and I'm really excited about it because joining us now on Streaming Star Wars, ABC correspondent Clayton Sandell. This guy is top notch. There's very few people as nice as him. I got to meet him in Chicago during Star Wars Celebration. Clayton is just took time to visit with everyone, and it was really fun to watch the whole room. There are some people that work a room, and then there's some people that the room works for them. And that's the case with Clayton Sandell. So joining us now on Streaming Star Wars, ABC correspondent Clayton. How are you doing, sir? I laid it on thick for you.
Oh, you laid it on very thick. Yeah, wow. Thank you. And I'm a little confused because I thought I was coming on to talk about Hannah Montana. Is that not what we're talking about tonight?
That's my other podcast, Clayton. We're going to do that over the weekend. That's the
yeah. Completely confused. Yeah, but no, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, very very excited about the Mandalorian so far. I actually I was down in Cripple Creek, Colorado, covering a murder trial today. And so I just got home and just like half an hour ago was able to watch episode 2. So I feel, or chapter 2. So I feel people's pain when they have to go to work in the morning and not get to see the episode until they get home at night. And the other night for the first episode, first chapter, I had planned on getting up really super early, like 5 a.m. to watch it. And so I went to bed kind of early. And when I got up, like 5 minutes after I went to bed, somebody from the office emailed me and said, "Oh, it's all live right now." So I could have watched it, right then. And but no, I did what everybody else did. I got up at like 5 a.m. and sat there with my coffee in the dark in the basement and watched it like 4 or 5 times in a row.
Well,
is it the first thing you watched?
It is, yeah. First thing I watched, which was great. I mean, for me, I sort of had the same experience. I put it on the smart TV, the app on the smart TV, and then I did put it on my phone, though I haven't really watched it yet or tried it much on my phone. But yeah, that was the first thing I watched was The Mandalorian. But the other thing, talking about other fun stuff on Disney Plus, I really loved the first episode of the Imagineering documentary.
Oh yeah,
by Leslie Iwerks, which kind of goes into the creation of Disneyland and gets you really kind of behind the scenes of a lot of the original rides and stuff like that. So that's a fun one to check out too.
Clayton, you show up to Disney Plus, and we're here with the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. Just real quick, what does this feel like? Because everyone's saying how there's like this electricity among the fandom. Star Wars has changed forever. How do you feel after watching the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian?
Yeah, I think it's great, and I think Pete, you made a great point about the look of it. It looks fantastic, and it's great. This is Greg Fraser. He was the cinematographer on Rogue One, which is another great looking Star Wars project. So it's cool to have him in there, and you can see I can see some of the parallels to the look of Rogue One and the look of the Mandalorian, and it's exciting to have this thing every week now. I mean, we did it, this community, we did it with the animated shows, But now this is like a whole cool game changer, and it's so far it's a lot of fun. It is like this 6 or 7 part, however many chapters it's going to be, episodes. It's like a 6 part movie, really. And so I'm kind of the first episode I liked. I didn't love it, but now that I've seen the second episode and I can kind of see how it's starting to piece together, I'm all in.
Yeah. We've seen the 2 episodes now. Let's just we are a spoiler zone, so let's just hop to it. How did you respond to the ending of the episode, of the first episode? I literally, I think my jaw might have hit the ground when they showed what was in the ball there.
Say
How did
what
you
was in there,
respond? What
Pete.
are you thinking? What was in there? I don't. It's a. My son was like, "It's Baby Yoda." Now, I don't. We'll go into that in a minute. But holy cow! Well, how did you respond, Clayton?
That is exactly. Well, first of all, that's exactly what my son said. He was watching it downstairs, and I had gone upstairs to get something, and I hear this shriek from downstairs when he gets to that scene. He goes, "It's Baby Yoda!" and it was really funny because we were, he's 6, and he doesn't really, he loves Star Wars. I think because I love Star Wars, but it was funny because tonight when we were watching chapter 2. You could see the gears cranking a little bit, and he started to ask me like, when does this take place? Because is this Baby Yoda? Like, is this the baby? And I had to explain to him, no, this is after Return of the Jedi, and it's a different little Baby Yoda kind of thing. So in our house, it was a huge reveal, and I had really I try really hard to stay away from spoilers, and we may have talked about this, Pete, on your show, how my supposed best friend Chris Martinez in 3rd grade ruined Return of the Jedi for me because he told me that Luke and Leia were brother and sister. So I hate spoilers. I have to like do a blackout leading up to the show. So I had heard that there was some big twist or something to be revealed in this show, and so I just kind of went, tuned it out. I didn't know it was going to be this Baby Yoda thing, and so when it popped up, it was like, wow, that's a good one. And here we go, because we've never seen this before.
Yeah, I would have just what I thought, and I know that this not too many people probably care what I was thinking, but the whole time, because first of all I thought they were on Tatooine, and so I was convinced it was going to be Boba Fett. I thought for sure it was going to be Boba Fett.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Now, what did you think? What's you guys' take on whether or not this was Boba Fett in the shadows of this Mandalorian hideout?
What do you think, Dave? Did you see that?
Well, yeah, I've seen the screenshot of it, and it would be funny. So I believe we've had both Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau say that it is not going to be Boba Fett in the show. At least we're not going to get Boba Fett early on here in the series, which I'm okay with. But at the same time, I think it would be such Dave Filoni style if he just snuck him in there in the very first episode, in the first 15 minutes of this series, just to have a little fun with fans. I mean, keep in mind, Dave Filoni's the guy that went on stage wearing a Ahsoka Dead shirt and then comes back out with Ahsoka Live shirt on. I mean, the whole playfulness with the fans, and I think it is friendly playfulness. He likes to have fun with the fandom, and he likes to have fun with the Star Wars story. So I would love for that to have been Boba, but looking at the guy, he was a little thick. He ate quite a few meals coming out of that Sarlacc pit. I guess like the whole getting digested thing, he had some issues. He needed to get renourished, and he just could not back away from that Mandalorian feast. So if that is about Boba, he is a fat man now.
And the great thing is they can kind of drop that in there and then never talk about it again, and then we just sit around and debate it for years.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a good chance of that happening, actually. Pete, so we have you on here on Streaming Star Wars on this Friday night. Glad everyone can join us for the second episode of Streaming Star Wars. A passion project of yours, the Force of Sound segment that you did. It was a feature on ABC, and you gave us an inside look at how they do sound design for Star Wars, specifically The Last Jedi. And so I'm kind of curious, when you're watching Star Wars: The Mandalorian, are you hearing anything that really excites you based on what you've learned and what you've shown us through that segment you did for us for The Last Jedi?
It's funny is I think I'm so kind of in tune to that now that I picked up more audio Easter eggs than I did video or visual Easter eggs. I really did. I from the beginning, and I made a list of them, and everything from the sound of the speeders in the beginning to I thought that Ravenak creature, sounded like the Rathtars, right? Like there's all these cool things in there. The sound of the Razor Crest engine sort of breaking down, kind of like when the Millennium Falcon hyperdrive would crash. Of course, the sound of we got a little taste of the sound of the carbon freeze chamber.
Heck yeah!
On board the ship, which I thought was really cool. And then that little door sentry thing that comes out of from Return of the Jedi at Jabba's palace that comes out and confronts C-3PO. We had another one of those in the city there that sounded exactly the same. So for me, a lot of those audio cues, a lot of those audio sounds that Ben Burt, collected 30, 40 years ago, are enough to bring me, that audio nostalgia for me really, really sucks me in. And I thought the sound design was fantastic on the show. And it should be, because it's Matt Wood and David Acord who have, a very long history with Star Wars sound design. So.
What can I ask you a follow-up here real quick? We mentioned the sound. So much of the sound of Star Wars is also because of its music. The score enhances your experience as a watcher of Star Wars. Can you talk about Ludwig's score here that he's composed here for the first 2 episodes? Personally speaking, I like episodes, the music that accompanied us in episode 2 a lot more than the first chapter. But what's your take? How does it make you feel?
That the music is the one area where I sort of feel I hate to say it didn't really do it for me in episode 1, chapter 1, and I think what it was, and it's not just a John Williams bias, because I don't think you have to necessarily copy the style or try and make your music sound like John Williams music. For me, it was a little too on the nose to the old spaghetti western type music, the flute and all of that. But also, it seemed there were certain shots, certain scenes where it didn't seem to know what it wanted to be, whether it was going to be sort of this highly electronica type score, or whether it was going to be sort of more analog traditional instruments. And so I think for me, that is where episode 1 fell a little bit short. But I hear from a lot of people online who absolutely love the score. And chapter 2, I thought was better. I thought it was a better fit.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things about music for me is if I notice it and I'm really conscious of it, then I think it hasn't quite done its job. And I found myself being taken out of chapter 1 a couple of times by the music. But I will also admit that today, after I got home and we watched chapter 2, and I was in here kind of futzing around on the computer and setting stuff up and getting ready to talk to you guys, I found myself humming the score.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's obviously stuck with me. And this happened to me with the Rogue One score as well. I wasn't a huge fan of it at first, and now I listen to it all the time. I think it's fantastic. So sometimes for me, I've got to hear it a few times and kind of get into it, and it's got to grow on me a little bit. And I think this has started to already, and it's great.
But what about that score? Because I'm telling you, man, I'm hearing Rocky in that score, especially during the credits, man. I mean, it makes sense. Ludwig worked on Creed, and he's been around the Rocky vibe, right? Because of that whole franchise. That took me out of it. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's the credits, but I'm hearing Rocky during this, and I'm thinking, ooh, that there needs to be a little bit more separation here, I think, from the sound of these franchises.
Yeah. But like I said, episode 2 for me was great, and tonally seemed more even as the chapter went on. So I think I just need to kind of settle into the groove with it. But
Gotta get
what I will add about that is because I am a score nerd, and so I've been listening to each episode. The score comes on Spotify like the same day,
Oh,
and so I was listening to it today, and actually interesting. What makes this very different? This is just a total nerdy observation. I guess if people are watching a Star Wars
Nerd,
podcast, they're probably
nerd.
okay with that.
You're such a
But
nerd.
such a nerd. But the sound of the mud horn that he makes comes almost, I won't say as much, but there's a lot of that. His sound comes from the music. The Mudhorn was that big monster with the egg that he was fighting. When you listen to the soundtrack, some of the sound is actually in the music. So it's very different again from like
oh.
John Williams, where he's creating the atmosphere, but the music is separate. But in this case, I feel like the music is almost Foley in some cases. So but that's just a nerdy observation. But I want to talk a little bit about Dave Filoni making his live action debut, and Rick Fumiyawa directing today. We have Bryce Dallas Howard. We have Don Chow coming. What are your thoughts on all the different directors coming to Mandalorian story?
I think it's great. I think it's cool that that they are bringing in all these different people. I mean, I think it's you know, as lovers of stories and television and movies and Star Wars, you know, I think you want a diverse set of voices coming in to tell these stories that, you know, are going to take us in new directions and give us perspectives that maybe we haven't seen. And so yeah, I'm excited. To me, the two episodes felt very similar, and I'm curious to see as we go on week to week if you're going to be able to tell a big difference between the different styles of the different directors.
And what are your thoughts on the? I will say I was a little bit after the first episode. I expected 39 minutes. I thought, okay, well they're just using this to set the pace and set the tone and give you a little bit of backstory, and then we'll kick into full episodes. And then this week, 32 minutes. Any
Well,
thoughts on that?
well, 32 minutes counting the credits. I noticed that when I stopped chapter 2 tonight, as the credits started to roll, it was only at 28 minutes.
Wow.
Which is really short. You know, traditionally, like a Netflix streaming show is like 40 minutes. And so, you know, and I don't know, you know, if that 40 minutes that you normally see on Netflix is sort of designed to make it something you can take to a traditional broadcast network with commercials and stretch it out into an hour. And so, this being Disney Plus, they don't care about that, and just want to serve the story and are doing what they feel are sort of natural chapter breaks. So I'm not entirely sure what explains what the reasoning is for the shorter episodes, but they really seem to, even chapter 1, which you know, was 36 minutes, I think, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
That even felt short to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really curious to see if they're just kind of given the freedom to do whatever length they want, and if a story needs to be longer, they'll make it longer, and if they feel it doesn't sustain it, it'll stay shorter. It's going to be really interesting to see.
Clayton, can I ask you about the fact that we have Dave Filoni making his live-action directorial debut? And from my perspective, and I think a lot of folks that have voiced their opinions, he just absolutely crushed it. He brought a vibe that was somewhat reminiscent of what we experienced, his lens, his view through Clone Wars, through Rebels. Was that a similar feeling for you? How do you feel he did in his first live-action opportunity?
I thought he did great. I mean, I thought it all kind of it certainly looked and felt like Star Wars, and you know, the nostalgic touches that that both he and I'm sure Favreau and others probably contributed to are all great, and it's cool to see all this different stuff. It's cool to see a Kowakian monkey lizard being roasted on a spit, because you know, it takes you back, and all these visual things that take you back are fun. But I don't think the nostalgia can sustain a show. You know, like, I don't think you can build a successful storyline just on a foundation of nostalgia. So I think they are going to have to really show that this story can stand alone and be its own self-contained thing. And you know, I was reminded of a story. I was talking to Filoni at Star Wars Celebration Orlando right after the last season Rebels panel had gone, and it was after this was like a few months after Rogue One, and we hadn't really talked or heard from him about the fact that Rogue One had all these Rebels Easter eggs in it with the ghost and all these different things.
Right.
And I had asked him, we were talking, and I asked Filoni if, because we saw the ghost at the Battle of Scarif, whether Rebels was going to finish its run at the Battle of Scarif. And it was, to me, that seemed like a reasonable, sort of obvious question to ask. And to Dave, he was like, that's the first time anybody's asked me about that. And he goes, I would never even think to take these characters and these storylines that we have worked on and developed over years and years and seasons, and then have their story culminate in somebody else's story. Like, so he understands that, I think. I think he understands that The Mandalorian has to kind of stand on its own, be its own entity, and if there are Easter eggs and, you know, connections to other parts of the Star Wars galaxy, great. But I don't think it requires that. What it really requires is to kind of be its own thing.
Now, you're a deep dive guy. You actually just dropped a deep dive of The Mandalorian, getting everybody ready for the series. And with The Mandalorian out, we've got 2 episodes, as we've discussed. Those canon connections that we've experienced in these first 2 episodes, there are a slew. First off, I mean, you got to talk about Baby Yoda, right? But is that really the Easter egg that stands out for you the most?
No, you know what really stood out for me, which I loved, and really I just kind of went, oh, this is awesome, was the Jawas in Chapter 2.
Heck yeah.
Although they seem to be like these odd red-eyed Jawas.
Right.
Did you get that, or
Yes,
is it my
I noticed the
TV?
red
I
eyes.
don't know.
They're a different
Totally noticed
breed.
the red eyes.
A different species,
Yeah.
maybe, of them. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. But I loved that, because I mean that takes you right back to the beginning of Star Wars, and you know you get a better sense of what these guys were doing, kind of out there hustling, stripping down the ship, which I thought was brilliant.
We got to see one get
and
disintegrated. I've never seen a
Well-
disintegration before on screen, and we finally got to see disintegration.
Yeah, how about that blaster? That
Holy.
disintegration blaster was something else.
Now we know why Vader made a concerted effort to say no disintegrations.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, but that for me, I think was the so far has been kind of the coolest canon connection is the Jawas and the Sandcrawler, and you know, again, all of those sounds you hear Utini, you hear the gibberish and the sound of the Sandcrawler itself. All of those things kind of took me back. What about you guys?
Pete, you go ahead and go first, bud.
From a canon connection standpoint, I think I loved, and actually, Clayton, on my show, when I asked what everybody's favorite quote is, yours was Ichuta. And I was excited to hear that one of the first lines of the series was Ichuta, Mando. And I thought that was
Exactly.
great.
Yes, that was awesome, right? I didn't even think of that one, but yeah, that's good. That's a good one. That was great.
But you, Dave?
If I'm being real honest, as far as like canon connection goes, I think what I like is Werner Herzog's character, because even though this is the first time meeting that character, what I was most excited about coming into this series, aside from The Mandalorian, was learning what the Empire looks like 5 years after Return of the Jedi. Chuck Wendig gives us a nice little look into the state of the Empire through his Aftermath trilogy. We've seen Lost Stars. We've gotten to see a little bit of, you know, post Return of the Jedi Empire. I wanted to see what that splintered Empire looked like, and so it's interesting to see this older Imperial. Doesn't look like he was a Grand Moff or anything. It looks like maybe he was like an ambassador or some kind of political person. He has that big medallion, Imperial medallion on his chest. But I like the tie that he has to like the old regime. Like the Empire is hiding now. They're not out in the streets right now. They're hiding in this shack or wherever they are. And he plays, you know, when we talk about the Empire being based on the Nazi regime, he does that pretty well. This old grizzled guy who lost the battle, and now there's one last hope, which connects me to my other canon connection is Twitter has been looking at that patch of Dr. Pershing and the emblem on his shoulder being the same that we see, the logo that we see on the clones in Kamino in Attack of the Clones. And so it's really exciting to kind of dive into, is there a connection to the cloning facility on Kamino? Are we going back to Topeka City? And will we see the Kaminoans again? Or we start to speculate, are we going to get clones of this baby unknown, and maybe this is the Empire's last-ditch effort to get Force users working for the Empire. I don't know. You can let your imagination run rampant with this, but for me, that's a great throwback to the prequels. I always say that one of my favorite lines in Force Awakens was Kylo referencing the Clone Army. It's just like these little things that connects this whole saga together. And even though the Mandalorian's not in that Skywalker saga, I think, Clayton, like you said, you can't live off nostalgia forever with this series, but those little bits that harken back to the movies, I think can only expand your ability to immerse yourself in this show. That's my answer.
Yeah.
That was long. I'm sorry.
But I think that's one of the things that's making this show so great is you're kind of, it puts you in a spot where you want to go on sort of an Easter egg hunt, but at the same time you're enjoying the story. And actually, I feel like that's kind of why I haven't been at all sort of discouraged by the length of the shows. I think they've been telling the right scene of the movie. If you have a film that's 2.5 hours, you go from that scene to the next scene to the next scene and back and forth. And this is just following the Mando. And meanwhile, we're sort of Easter egg hunting as we go on that.
Pete, real quick though, while we have Clayton, one of the things that we talk about with the Mandalorian, the opportunity with this show is exploring the lore. It's not quite a canon connection, but we get to see how the Mandalorian armor is made. We got a signet that's about to be revealed at some point with him. But does it do anything for you to learn more about the Mandalorian culture in the sense of we're seeing how the armor is assembled and that there's multiple Mandalorians in existence for this series?
Was that for me?
Yeah, that was for you, Clayton. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So, yes, it is great to learn about it in the show because, and I know that this has been covered a lot in Rebels and Clone Wars in the animated realm, but really, I mean, this has never been explored in the live action space at all, and so. I think you have the ability here to sort of bring in new fans and tell a whole set of new stories that at least hasn't been told in this realm before. So yeah, I didn't, I haven't followed it as closely in the animated shows, and so I'm excited to learn all sorts of stuff about the Mandalorians.
Yeah, it does a lot, and I know that Favreau and Filoni are having a lot of fun being able to do that, just because of the relationship they developed on Clone Wars, and obviously with him being Favreau voicing Pre Vizsla, like it's a really cool opportunity, and I'm that full circle stuff. I'll eat that up all the time as a fan.
I do have one pet peeve though. Can I throw one pet peeve out there?
I was waiting for you to complain about something. I mean, I'm just waiting for you. You got something has to be nagging at you. Come on, man, bring it.
Star Wars is a space fantasy.
Yeah.
I don't need to know about vac tubes and space toilets and evacuation.
Hey, I don't know about you, but I was always wondering, when Han Solo's cruising the galaxy with Chewie, and Chewie's got to let one out. It's like, where does he go? Where does he go? The back tube. That's where he goes. I just had
a little TMI, but that's all right.
Well, it's getting that balance of like Star Wars humor, I think, right? And a critique of The Last Jedi was it felt more like the humor that we have in our world, or like Marvel humor. Your mama jokes don't really feel like they fit in Star Wars. But I thought Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, the whole crew, people like the characters are just naturally funny, and I think you get a lot of that with IG-11, Taika Waititi's character. Just like the timing, the response, the tone, it worked really well. It felt natural, and I was chuckling through these episodes. I didn't like the fact that the Mandalorian can't ride a blurg. I feel like the Mandalorian should be able to ride. Like, I don't know why we're trying to build this character up and humiliate him with the blurg, but I mean that's just me. I think you're trying to find a balance of playing to that older and younger audience at the same time.
Oh, I'm gonna completely disagree with you on that one, because I feel like that's critical to this character. I feel like that entire first episode, the fact that he fails multiple times, even into chapter 2, I think is really important to making this character accessible to he's not Iron Man or Superman. He's growing. What do you think, Clayton?
Well, I just remembered something that happened when we were watching Chapter 2 tonight, and it was sort of a not complaint, but sort of a question that I had after watching Chapter 1. That how attached are we going to be able to get to this character that we never see his face, right?
Right.
And is the mask going to kind of keep us from really investing in this character and sort of being able to empathize with him and all of that? What I found was that the more I watched it, Pedro Pascal does a superb job conveying through his body language, the tilt of the head, the phrases, words that he uses. That concern has sort of started to fall away, and it completely fell away tonight when we were watching Chapter 2, the scene where the Mandalorian with Baby Yoda in tow come up to his ship there and see it being completely stripped by the Jawas. And my son is sitting there watching with me, and he says, "Oh, the Mandalorian is so mad." And I was like, "Yeah, that's I'm sure he is, and you're right." But you didn't get any of that from anything he said or anything you read on his face, obviously, because the mask was there. But he even my 6-year-old picked up on the body language, the acting ability that Pedro has, that he brings to this role, and could see exactly what emotion he was feeling, which I thought was really cool.
I think you're right. I think I heard somebody today sort of referencing Indiana Jones, and for no other reason because of the sandcrawler sort of tank scene. But to me, just like you're saying, that during the battle with the Mudhorn, the way you could tell he was exasperated, just like Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, you could just tell he was like, "All right, I got to do this." The way he stood up, the way, like you said, it's all about body language. I also felt even with IG-11 and the Mandalorian, when they looked at the gun after they took out the entire group, the entire village of I guess pirates or whatever, just the way they both kind of looked at the gun. These are two faceless creatures or characters, and you got the humor from just the way they turned their heads, and that's just brilliant. And that's the acting, that's the directing, and that's the care that's going into this series, I think, more than anything else. So it's been fantastic. So we've kept you, I think, longer than we expected to, but I want to ask you, just before we let you go, is there a piece, anything you're working on in the Star Wars world that you can preview, or if not, what are you most looking forward to?
There are a couple of things in the works, but I'm gonna have to be coy, only because so many the stars have to align and people's schedules have to line up and all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, there's a couple. Hopefully one big one that I'm really hoping and looking forward to, and I'm hoping it comes together here in the next week, and then we would air it around the time that The Rise of Skywalker comes out. And then we've been talking about doing some stuff on The Mandalorian, maybe getting out to the set at some point, which would be great. I actually on Good Morning America this morning, Chris Connolly did an interview with Pedro Pascal and Favreau.
Yes.
And
awesome.
My buddy Connor, producer with ABC, was there on that shoot, and he was texting me last night pictures from the interview setup that they had there. He goes, "I'm on the set of The Mandalorian," and I immediately, he goes, "I don't want to make you jealous, but I'm on the set of The Mandalorian," and so I texted him back a couple middle finger emojis and knock it off, but yeah, hopefully we'll have some cool stuff coming up, and just keep an eye on my Twitter and abcnews.com, and we'll push them out as soon as we get them. But yeah, a couple of things in the works that I'm hoping to be able to talk about soon.
That's fantastic. That's one of the great things about first of all, every piece you brought, whether it's from the sound effects behind the scenes. Which, by the way, are we going to get to see that on Disney Plus? Will that be on Disney Plus?
That's a really good question because it's still on abcnews.com. It was on Hulu for a while, and then I couldn't find it on Hulu the other day. Maybe I wasn't searching for it right, but
Yeah.
I hoped maybe that it was going to show up somewhere on that Star Wars screen. So I'm gonna send a couple of emails next week.
Yeah, let's start a campaign on Twitter. Anybody who's listening and watching, let's get that on there.
Free content. Yeah.
But when you cover Star Wars, and just even this conversation, you are as into it as the fans, and that comes through, and that's what makes your Star Wars coverage so special and so great. And we wish you nothing but continued success on this stuff, and looking forward to more stories from you bringing us the Star Wars news.
Well, that's very kind. I mean, I sort of come to this as a fan first. I mean, I'm sort of a news guy in my regular job,
Yeah,
and
you
I
are.
call Star Wars my side hustle. And so whenever I can kind of bring fans along with me wherever we go, whether it's ILM or whatever, then we try to do that, and that's kind of how my approach is. It's like, as a fan, what would I want to see? And so that's what I kind of ask for when we start planning out these shows.
Well, Clayton, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us here on Streaming Star Wars. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. And I said at the beginning of the interview, but it was a joy to meet you in Chicago. You've always been so kind, and I appreciate it because I've hit you up once, and I didn't annoy you then, and I hopefully it means a lot. You're just very genuine, and this has been a lot of fun. Like I don't know if you've been able to watch the live chat of the show right now, but everyone is having such a great time hearing what you're saying. They're responding. Do you have time to take like one question from the live chat, or do you have to go? Because if you have to go, we totally understand.
Yeah, I can hang around for a few minutes.
Pete, is it okay if we go do a couple of questions? What do you think, bud?
Yeah, let's pull them up. Absolutely.
Great.
Let's get in the live chat real quick. If there's okay, so everyone, this is ridiculous, the live chat right now. So if you have a question for Clayton right now, just please re-ask it. I know there were several higher up, but everyone has been so active in this conversation, which has been thrilling to see as this episode has played out. And again, we have ABC national correspondent Clayton Sandell with us, talking Star Wars, everything about The Mandalorian, but really about everything Disney Plus, because that's what we do here on Streaming Star Wars. Every Friday night, we go live and talk about the whole Disney Plus experience as far as Star Wars content goes. We have Bombed Cast in the live chat. They're trying to get a question for me. It looks like they're typing. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll up.
I got one here, Dave.
Go ahead, Pete. Take it over. Absolutely.
Yeah, I got one from Framey, who I know I know those guys real well. And the question is, what's the chance of you getting a Star Wars cameo, and what would you like to cameo as if you had the chance?
I love it.
That's funny. I've had a couple of producers suggest that. Probably slim to none. But we can always ask. I would love to be an alien in a cantina scene, right? I mean, how can you top that? Even if I'm like in the background where nobody even sees me, just the fact that you're there, that you could probably. I mean, that would be a lifetime of memories to do something like that. So yeah, I would love to play an alien in some crazy alien crowd scene somewhere. I think it would be fantastic. But what's funny is that I have friends, people I know that were members of the 501st who got called to be extras as stormtroopers on The Mandalorian. That's which cool. Is it was like a dream come true for these guys. I mean, they spend their time doing a lot of great charity work and got the call for this project that they didn't know what it was and they couldn't talk about it. And here, all of a sudden, here they are. They're in the background as stormtroopers in this big crowd shot, which is coming up in one of these feature episodes. So, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Framey says, thank you so much. Awesome answer, Clayton. So thank you for taking his question. We have Nick Milky with us right now on Streaming Star Wars. We're speaking live with Clayton Sandell, but Nick asks, what is Clayton's one wild prediction for Episode 9? So not Disney Plus content, but do you want to give us your crazy prediction for Episode 9 while we have you and can put you on the spot?
Oh, and let's add to that too. If you're gonna give us a wild prediction for episode 9, give us a wild prediction for the Mandalorian so we can keep it on the plus side.
Oh yeah, I like it. Like it.
Man,
2 for 1.
yeah, God, episode 9. One of the things I try not to do is go into any of these movies with any expectations because I just feel like I get let down.
Yeah.
See the
Know the
prequels,
feeling. Yeah. Ouch. Shots fired. Shots fired. Clayton, you're supposed to be kind on the show.
not that I'm, and I think I've told Pete this. I'm a reformed prequelist. I totally appreciate and love the prequels today, but
That's how my uncle is about
but
his
they were a lot
Catholicism.
different than what I was expecting going in. Episode 9, God, that's a really tough one. I think JJ has probably the toughest job in all of the history of filmed entertainment right now. I don't know how he's gonna pull this off in a satisfactory way for everybody. I'm excited to see what they do. I would love to see speaking of the prequels, I would love to see Hayden show up at some point.
Oh yeah.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be great. Okay, so your
Great.
Mandalorian prediction then.
The Mandalorian. That's a good.
I can sense
I mean,
Longer episodes.
Longer episodes. I think
double the length.
I mean, it's not really a wild. I think we'll see. I think we'll see him take his helmet off at some point.
Don't want it to happen though.
Does he serve? I'm sort of curious whether he survives the series because he's already demonstrated, right, that he is he's sort of this badass, but he's also got a heart, and he seems to be willing to put his fellow Mandalorians. You saw him donate the Beskar back when he got his pauldron and the money that he earned from his bounties. He's looking out for others, and now of course he's taken on protecting Baby Yoda. So I wonder if he'll actually survive till the end.
We have one more question, and then we're going to let you go, Clayton, because you have already, not that you've overstayed your welcome, but you've kindly given us more time than what you...
I'm out of good answers, right?
But you know what? Steve is in the live chat, and he asks, do you have any thoughts on Alan Horn's comment about reverse engineering the Mando, talking about could you make the Mandalorian into a movie? And since that statement was made, Jon Favreau has been vocal that he thinks they would be too overwhelming to do. But do you have any thoughts about, you have the successful property on Disney Plus? Do you make it a movie? Is it too soon? What are your thoughts on that?
You mean like taking what they've done and sort of editing it into a 2-hour movie, or
Alan Horn actually came out and was like, we think that we can make this.
New movie.
Yeah, just like it's been successful. I mean, keep in mind we've only had 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, but Alan Horn basically said in a call that it is so successful we could reverse engineer this thing and make The Mandalorian into a movie. And then I can't remember who it was, but someone got Jon Favreau on camera and was like, "Would you do that?" And he's like, "No, that would be too overwhelming, I think, to make this a movie."
Yeah, I've seen and I've heard interviews with Favreau where he talks about how excited he was to do this for a streaming service because it sort of fit the style and the pacing and the how he wanted to tell this story over multi episodes versus doing it all as one movie. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it's different if you're talking about taking the character and making a brand new movie or set of movies. But I kind of feel like their focus right now is on Disney Plus. I mean, that is where the next 3 live action Star Wars projects that we know about are going, between Mandalorian, the Obi-Wan, and the Cassian Andor series. So I don't know what they would get out of it by making it into a movie.
Well, Clayton, we really appreciate you being with us on Streaming Star Wars for this episode 2. But just to break down the 2 episodes, it's been a lot of fun. Pete and I both appreciate it. Pete, do you have anything else you want to throw at Clayton, or is this bon voyage?
I think this is until we meet again. I think this was a fantastic conversation. Your perspective, as always, is really appreciated and really interesting. And like David was saying, kept watching the chat here off to the side. If people see me kind of looking off, that's what I'm looking at. People are really excited, and I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us tonight on a Friday.
Well, Dank Ferrick, this was a blast, guys.
Carabas.
Oh my- Clayton, before we let you go, we're going to take a quick break. But Clayton, can you close us out of this segment? Could you please look into your camera, say who you are, who you work for, and what show our viewers are watching right now? And then I'm going to flip a commercial break. I'm going to pod the audio down, and you're free to enjoy the rest of your night. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. So this is the give me the words again. The
Your name. You're basically going to say, I'm Clayton Sandell with ABC News, and you're watching Streaming Star Wars. I'll see you whenever. I don't know. Lie to the people. I don't care what you do.
You're watching Streaming Star Wars?
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it. All right. I'm Clayton Sandell, correspondent with ABC News and huge Star Wars fan, and you are watching Streaming Star Wars. Chuta.
Yeah, we'll take it. All right, everybody. We'll be right back. See you soon. You're watching Streaming Star Wars.
All wings report in. Brand new Beyond the Blast Door collector pins are now in stock. Help spread the word about the Beyond the Blast Door Star Wars conversation by picking up a brand new exclusive show pin. Pins are only $8. Order and pay online at BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. Movies, TV, comics, toys, cosplay. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation. All wings.
We are back here on Beyond the Blast Doors, and we still have, it looks like we still have Clayton on shot here, so we're going to put me on screen right now. Not a problem at all. That was funny. He's like, oh, we came back too soon. No, we came back at the right time, but the program was just a little bit behind us. But my goodness, Pete, we are here on Streaming Star Wars Episode 2, and it is just so incredible to think that in 2 quick weeks that we've been able to put together a show with some really incredible guests. Last week we had Anthony Bresnikan with us from Vanity Fair, and this week we're able to be joined with Clayton, and just really enjoyed his perspective. And I'm not trying to brag, but it's really cool that we can have this Star Wars conversation with not just really cool guests, but also our live audience right now. And I'm looking over right now. We've been going just under an hour right now. We still have quite a bit we want to talk about, so we'll get through that pretty quickly. But to the people joining us in live chat and catching us on the rewind, whether you're watching or listening, just thank you so much, because Pete and I have worked really hard. And I think I can honestly say that. I don't feel bad about saying that, but we've worked really hard in the last month to assemble a new show and how to get this to work with, he lives in Jersey, I live in the Midwest, and just to have moments. And I say moment loosely because I realize that we talked with Clayton for 40 minutes, but that was a lot of fun, Pete. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, it absolutely was. I think I don't know if it's appropriate to say this or not, but I'm going to. But I think what I love about doing this show is the guests are great, and we've been really lucky to have Clayton and Anthony on the first 2 weeks. But watching the engagement with all the folks in the chat has been great, and I also think trying to go beyond the episodes. I will say, really transparently, that this week was interesting for me when Disney Plus dropped, because I'm a fan of so many podcasts. In fact, some of those guys are in there with us now, like Holo Chronicles and Bombad Cast, and as father and son, some really great shows. And but I listened to all of them, and I listened to everybody. A lot of them this week were talking Mandalorian, and I'm dying to go and talk Mandalorian. And I think that's what I'm excited about with this show is to just talk about some of the other things on Disney Plus besides Mandalorian. Look, we there's a lot of great places to go and take the deep dives and all those things. And I think here's your place to kind of talk about what Disney Plus is doing for you as a Star Wars fan, and how it's impacting what we're doing or what we're getting as fans. So it's been a lot of fun. Just 2 weeks in, and gosh, we're only 2 episodes into this amazing series so far.
And I said this earlier in the show, but the fact that we have, so it's 37 minutes, 32 minutes, whatever it is, but we have an hour of of story now, and the fact that we get 6 more episodes is really exciting. And this is a time investment. We're going to invest so much time, not just with the Mandalorian, but we haven't even met Gina Carano's character yet. We haven't really gotten to know Grief yet that well. We haven't seen Moff Gideon at all yet. So this story is just unfolding before our eyes, and it's really exciting. And here we are in the next segment of our show, and the way this is going to work is each week, Pete and I, we want to keep the conversation tight. We want to keep it fun. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to pick 2 things each that we liked, and since we have 2 episodes to talk about from this past week, we're going to talk about the 2 things that we liked about each episode. Whether what excited us the most, and maybe we even mention something that we didn't like. That is possible. We could not like something. We talked about that with Clayton. I think he felt guilty about saying he didn't like anything. There was something he didn't like, but that's just going to happen. It's art, man. You got to interpret it. Pete, would you like to start, or do you want me to start with episode 1? And that is episode 1, chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. And if you're in the live chat, be sure you're telling us what you like about the first chapter. If you're listening on the rewind, you can let us know via Twitter at StreamingSW. But Pete, go ahead and you're thinking about chapter 1. What really stands out that brings you joy?
I think it was I was smiling the entire 39 minutes, 36 minutes, because it just felt like Star Wars, and that's not to take anything away from the sequel series, because I think those have been fantastic. But I think to me it was, I think I said it last week as well, I think it's the aliens, it's the whole feel of being somewhere in a galaxy far, far away. I really feel like the connection to old Star Wars without overpaying it worked great. I think just the sounds, there was a feel about this series that it didn't feel like a television show. It felt like a movie, but it felt like digestible, and it definitely felt like you were being brought right back to 1977 and 1980, 1983.
Yeah, I can really dig that. I'll tell you, my first thing that I really liked about Chapter 1 of The Mandalorian was the violence. I thought there was no better tone setter for the series than this first sequence that we get, where we get this Western-sounding music underneath a Mandalorian on this, what looks like a cool, like, Nordic planet. So that the music really worked for me in that moment. Because it was that combination, and I felt like, I was like, man, I feel like I'm in Alaska right now. But he walks in and he gets in that encounter at the bar, smashes the one dude's head, cuts the other guy in half with the door, with the blaster shot to the control panel, and in a matter of 90 seconds, that this guy didn't have to say one word. He is incredibly skilled with a weapon. He is incredibly skilled with whatever you call mixed martial arts in the Star Wars universe. And then you just let that show unfold. I didn't like the guy that he captured. He was kind of like a really bad stand-up comedian, like, what, like he kind of had that voice to him.
Well, it was Horatio Sands from Saturday Night Live,
right? But I can either take you in warm, or I can take you in cold. And
as long as we're talking about things that we didn't love, I don't know. I'd love to hear how the people on the live chat feel about this. To me, that blue alien, that was the only thing that felt like a TV show to me. It felt like a Star Trek alien. And that was the only issue I've had in the first 70 minutes of this show. But I'm not sure. But you're right. His first line is, "I can take you in warm, I can take you in cold," and it was great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Now it really set a good tone, and it's something that, as we get to chapter 2 especially, that violence continues, obviously, with the behavior with the Jawas. Just seeing them get disintegrated, it was satisfying. It's like Battlefront 2, when you're playing Battlefront 2, and you could shoot, you could hunt the Ewoks in that one free play mode. It felt like that. The Mandalorian was just sniping off these Jawas. It was really satisfying. What is your second? Let me make sure that this is in the camera shot. What is your second thing you liked about chapter 1?
Number 2, the thing that I liked about Baby Yoda. I wish we knew what to call him, but holy cow. My as I said when Clayton was on, my son just freaked out and loved it. But what I love about him is there's so much character to this puppet. And um, my kids are still young enough so that I have very vivid memories of them as toddlers and little, sitting in the car seat going with me somewhere, and the looks on this little creature's face they're sort of perplexed at times, and they're excited at times, just like a little child would be. So I don't know, those of you who have kids, those looks when you could tell they're soaking everything in and responding to it. And this little green dude does it. It's amazing. So I would say my second thing is that little green guy. My favorite name for him, I don't know, those of you who might listen to the Resistance broadcast, they call him Tiny, and it stands for "This is not Yoda," which I think is a great
That's
name
so
for him.
genius. That's so good. I will tell you that my second favorite thing about Chapter 1 is Nick Nolte as the Ugnaught, because I Have Spoken is going to be the bumper sticker, the hashtag, the meme that I make moving forward. I was on the edge of my seat to hear and see that character. Some people criticize the willingness for Nick Nolte's character and the Mandalorian to collaborate. They say that feels a little rushed. But for me, it really worked, and I really enjoyed the humor felt like Star Wars. It felt natural in this very quick sequence. You feel like the Mandalorian just got an Obi-Wan Kenobi character to guide him through this future obstacle, and I really enjoyed. Again, I want half of the bounty. That seems a little steep. No, half of that blurg. You can have both. No, you'll need one. It's like. That just felt like true Star Wars, and that's what you're getting when you get a Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau collaborating, two lifelong Star Wars lovers, but Dave Filoni studying at the altar of Lucas for 10 years on the Clone Wars. People forget Clone Wars was Lucas's last adventure with Star Wars characters, other than McClunky, which we'll talk about at some point. Apparently, that happened a couple years ago before he sold sold Star Wars to Disney, but. Really enjoyed that character because, again, this is the fun of The Mandalorian. It's a sandbox. You get to create new characters, tell new stories, and that's what we got with our little Ugnaught fan. And then, Dark Horse, if I can, real quick, Pete, would be the carbon freezing chamber inside the Razor Crest, because in Empire, I had to think about it, but in Empire, they had never put a human being in there before. That was like a new concept, and so they were testing it on Solo. You fast forward, this is what now, 7 years maybe after Empire Strikes Back, and it's wide used now. I mean, now they put carbon chambers apparently in spaceships, and so that was a really cool sequence. Seeing that character, I still don't know his name, I don't know his species, I don't know what planet they were on. There's a lot that we don't know yet still about this story, but I do know that the Mandalorian kept him from seeing his wife on Life Day or whatever, and just thrust him in there. It was an awesome sequence.
Yeah, and I also like that they kind of took the sheen off of bounty hunting, right? They said, we learned a lot. You and I were texting back and forth a little bit earlier today, and I think what's been great is we've learned in less than 2 full episodes, right? Because you could argue the length of the show, but in 70 minutes with minimal lines of dialogue, we've learned that this guy doesn't like droids. We've learned that he's fallible. We learned that he doesn't trust or like the Empire. We learned that he's got a heart. And I mean, when he rocks the cradle in the Razor Crest at the very end to make sure the baby's okay, there's no way, by the way, in my opinion, there's no way this baby's going back to Werner Herzog. That's not happening. It's like he found the puppy that he's always wanted, and he's keeping it.
That's funny.
I don't see him giving that baby back. What do you guys in the chat think? Do you guys think he's going to go and deliver the baby, or do you think he's going to become an outlaw himself? I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the live chat.
What do you think,
real quick.
Dave? While we wait.
As far as will the baby looking like Yoda thing go back to Werner Herzog? Is that the question you're prompting?
That's my
me?
question. Yeah.
Okay. You're posing it. No, I'm making sure. Turning my volume up a little bit here on episode 2 of Streaming Star Wars. We work on the fly sometimes. It's kind of like the Millennium Falcon going through an asteroid field being chased by TIE fighters. Sometimes we're taking laser blasts. We have bad odds working in our favor, and we're just trying to get this thing out of here. Okay, so I do think man, I I th- I think that it does. I think something goes wrong. I think there's something to Dr. Pershing wanting that infant back alive, and Werner Herzog wants it dead or alive, and I think Dr. Pershing wants it back alive for a certain reason. And again, I think that goes back to the theory that's going out there about how his patch is connected to Camino and the clones.
Yep.
Somehow or another, I think that they're trying to. I guess what I need for anything to happen, I need to understand how the Empire or whatever this group is with Werner Herzog and the Stormtroopers, whoever this group is, how did they find out about this youngling? How long has this been going on? We know that this young infant is force sensitive because of what we've witnessed in Chapter 2.
Yep.
So now you have the Empire, you have a cloner, you have a force sensitive infant that's 50 years old. So now the likelihood of them trying to clone a highly force capable species is really interesting. And so yeah, I think something goes awry. But you mentioned earlier how the Mandalorian has a heart, and he's kind of a gray character. Like he's empathetic because I think he's struggling with like PTSD from seeing the Separatists invade his home planet, right? We see that flashback when the armor is being crafted in the first chapter. And so he seems to be empathetic to this young, defenseless infant. But at the same time, he has no problem picking off Jawas or discriminating against droids or having a problem with X, Y, and Z character. So, yeah, morally gray, which I hate to say because then people are like, yeah, like a gray Jedi. You know, I don't believe in gray Jedi. You're either a Jedi or you're a Sith. You're either one way or the other. Gray Jedi is not a canon concept. Don't get at me about it. It's just not. So, but the Mandalorian does seem to have some gray to him, morally complex, and that's something that I look forward to seeing how this unfolds. What are we seeing in the live chat right now, Pete?
We're seeing a little bit of everything. We're seeing a lot of people saying there's Mr. Rez says no way he delivers him, but he will get paid. I think that I think you're right. I mean, we saw his armor get severely damaged in this episode. He needs Beskar, so I think that's where he's stuck right now.
Well, and take a look at Nick Melky saying the yodeling. Ooh, I like that. The yodeling
like
definitely doesn't go back to Werner. In fact, I think it becomes the football that gets passed back and forth through all of season 1. That's interesting because I didn't think that right off the bat here in the first chapter, Pete, we got to see several bounties be turned in for some calamari flan, right? Some Imperial credits. And so, this might be like the MacGuffin in a way. This might be this young unknown species infant that looks like Yoda might be the thing that kind of guides us through this first season of The Mandalorian.
So I wonder if there will be any connections to Episode 9. I know that would be kind of a stretch, but the fact that the penultimate episode airs the Wednesday before Rise of Skywalker and the final episode airs after. Now that could just be purely a scheduling issue from Disney, but I also feel like there could be some sort of, much like I think it was it Resistance around, I don't know what it was. It was maybe it was Rebel. It was Rebel. I don't know. One of the animated shows. Somebody in the live chat will tell me.
This is going
one
really
of the live shows or the animated shows had a connection that they waited until after the film to make that connection come back. So I think it's interesting. I think the connection could end up being something as simple as, and I know a lot of people don't like the cloning concept. I don't think I do either, but perhaps if there is a cloning line of some sort in the Rise of Skywalker, there's a direct connection there between that and the First Order or something. So I think I don't know where I'm going with this other than to say I think that there's I don't think he goes back to Werner Herzog. I think the Mandalorian goes and runs with this thing, and who knows what that means for that character. I mean, we know that the Mandalorian, because of the guild rules, will become the hunted.
Right.
But what does that mean for the little green guy if he survives?
I'm not sure, and I think that's hopefully what we come to find out here as the series unfolds. I mean, I'm into the cloning thing, especially when you think of the fact that even in Attack of the Clones, we learn that the cloning facility cloned different things. It wasn't just the Grand Army of the Republic that facility had cloned. So I can buy into the fact that there's other cloners out there, maybe on Camino, creating more products for other corporations or other large investors. So like I can buy into it. But yeah, curious to see how people feel about cloning. We'll check the live chat in just a moment. But let's go ahead and move on to chapter 2 for the next point of conversation. And yeah, I'm gonna kick it off right with the whole sequence with the Jawas on the Sandcrawler. I don't know if that's Tatooine or not. If I have a negative, I kind of wish they would have taken a page out of Rogue One and told you, with text what planet you were cruising up to. I think that would have helped a lot. But also, I was thinking about like going back, like I'm not quite sure how we found about. I don't know how we found out that we were on Tatooine in New Hope, or if we were on Hoth. Well, we hear it, Hoth system said in Empire, but
I think it's an opening crawl actually in Empire.
Oh, okay, cool. So, with that said, my first one is the sequence with the Jawas, seeing him disintegrate, because I've never seen a weapon do that, and we hear that reference in Empire, and we talked about this with Clayton. I think it was hysterical. I'm cracking up. I mean, I don't know if that's sadistic of me or not, but I was laughing my ass off watching this happen. Yeah. And then he's trying to climb up the side of the Sandcrawler. By the time he gets up there, he ends up falling down again, and then by the time he gets up there, he hits like 14 these Jawas that shock him, and then he falls down on the ground. Most satisfying moment. The one Jawa that he throws down there, and you see the Jawa fall to the ground and just flatten. Delicious. Yeah. What's your first one?
Yeah. I think my first observation takeaway, and I kind of mentioned it with Clayton, was just how well you were able to understand what was going through the Mandalorian's mind without ever seeing his face. The way he walked back from the fight with the Mudhorn with the egg in his hand, and I think it was some pieces of his armor in the other hand, and just sort of dragging himself back. And at the same time, the way that little yodeling, as I gotta see who said that on the way the yodeling was just so concerned about him. And I think I'll expand that into when he was fixing his wound, and the little critter wanted to help heal him, and his lack of knowledge of the Force, apparently it pushed him right back, picked him up, put him back in his cradle, but he didn't respond to the little guy in a way that would have let him do what he wanted to do.
Yeah. I get it. I think that my third favorite thing is the reveal, or is this my second favorite for chapter 2, with just finding out that youngling is Force sensitive. I thought that was really cool, and it seems for a 50-year-old being just really exhausted after using the Force. But I thought that was really fascinating. That whole, we got to go get this egg. We got to trade with the Jawas. Can't give my Beskar armor away, so I got to go get this egg. And then you see this infant using the Force. When we went into the series, Pete, not thinking we were going to get any references to the Force. We're 5 years past Return of the Jedi. There's really no way you can have, at least we think there's no way you can have Luke pop in, or Leia pop in, or the Jedi pop in. So this was going to be no Force, no lightsabers, which is fine, because after the first 2 episodes, we have so many blaster skirmishes. I'm overwhelmed. Titillated was a word that came to mind. Titillated.
Right.
And so,
titillated.
Yes, it's actually not as inappropriate as it sounds.
But it's fun to say.
Who doesn't love saying titillated? It's like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I slurred my way through that, but I just watched Mary Poppins before I came out here for the show. I really enjoyed that reveal, because that was the biggest question that I had. Was after that first chapter, everyone on social media is like, well, I felt like there were a lot of assumptions that because we have Yoda, and then we have what's her name, the other Yoda,
Yaddle.
Yaddle, yeah, whatever. So for Yaddle's sake, we've only seen those 2, so everyone's like, oh, they hooked up, they had this baby. I'm like, that doesn't add up, right? But whatever. Oh, well, those 2 are Force users, so this thing has to be a Force user. I don't buy into that. But what's interesting is this, and it kind of reminded me of Harry Potter. That infant has never been trained in the Force. I think it's safe to say, because it's a baby. But it can tap into the Force, it can manipulate the Force, and it can save the Mandalorian's hide when it's being charged by that creature. So I started thinking about Rey in like Force Awakens. We think she hasn't been given any training. She's able to tap into the Force. So we are seeing consistency with newer Star Wars as far as how individuals can tap into the Force. You can tap into the Force and not being trained, but your training allows you to more consistently manipulate or command the Force, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure where my brain is coming down on this yodeling. I think uh, hashtag yodeling. Why don't we use um the there's a couple of interesting things. First of all, my gut tells me that it's a nearly extinct species and he's
Oh,
the
yeah.
last of them.
Okay.
And that's why the Empire wants him, because he's got as a species, it's sort of naturally force sensitive. What were the force from the Heir to the Empire series? What were the name of those creatures that were able to sort of deflect the force? I can't remember what they were called. Somebody in the live chat.
Ooh, someone in the live chat, help us out here. That is a question that I'm not going to be able to help out with.
But I think it's sort of just the opposite. I think that the Yoda type creatures are probably very rare, nearly extinct, and that's probably why they want him, is to be able to create the to sort of build more Force users, or clone these little Yoda type creatures. So yes, the creature that throwing war around his neck, I'm seeing it there in the live chat. So I think that that's what they're trying to capture him for.
I'm really into it. Oh, it looks like
There it is. Nick's got it.
Is it calamari?
Yeah, calamari,
Okay.
which sounds like something you would order at an Italian restaurant with your mon calamari. But
See, I was gonna go with sushi. It sounded like sushi. Doesn't sound like what the Italians would do. Oh my God, I made some rigatoni this week. Let me tell you about the rigatoni. I had Italian sausage in this thing. I had 2 bags of spinach in this thing. Mushrooms, man. Italian seasoning, a little pepper, a little salt. Oh, it was delicious. One more thing for this, and then we'll go on to the poll, and then we have our giveaway. I failed to mention that off the top of the show. I apologize. We're giving away some free stuff tonight, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Coming up in about 5 minutes, we're going to be giving that away. You get to participate. We have a week-long giveaway to talk about. Pete, we're going to have to announce the winner of our giveaway this past week. We had everyone talk about the first episode of Streaming Star Wars, which was, I think, an overwhelming success. I believe more than 200 views on the YouTube channel, more than 200 listens on the podcast. I think it's actually significantly more now, but really in part because everyone was willing to share our show with the hashtag Mando Bounty. And so Pete's going to pull up our winner for that, and we'll discuss that. We'll also be giving away an item for the next week, and I might have a gift here for those in the live chat that have stuck with us here on this Friday night for Streaming Star Wars. So my last thing, and when thinking about this second chapter of The Mandalorian, I am going to say that I already like the diversity of directors for this show, because I think that Dave Filoni did, I thought he did very well with the first chapter, which was a risky move, I think. You know, we know Jon Favreau didn't have the schedule to do the pilot episode, which I think in most cases if you have Jon Favreau, you have him do the pilot, because that kind of sets the template for the overall series. But I think that Dave did very well. I work in broadcast news professionally, so I can't tell you the true the true skill behind sequencing a cinematic shot and the technique there, but it felt like Star Wars. A lot of wide shots. I liked all the swipes to go to the next scene. Like, it felt very good. And Rick, I thought, did a really nice job with the second episode, incorporating more humor, a little bit more action. We got a little bit more dialogue, and it felt good. I mean, especially to make the whole thing work with the Jawas and expanding them, because they were just these creepy little hooded furry things in the original trilogy, and really gave them some personality. So, I mean, the whole team writing, that was really enjoyable for me. Anything else before we go on to the poll of the week here?
Yeah, not really, other than to say, if every week is this good, I don't care if it's 20 minutes or an hour. I think, I posted it on Twitter today. It was 32 minutes, and every one of them was damn good. So I think we're in a good spot for where this series is going. Would I love 2 hours of Star Wars every week? Sure. But the reality is, folks, we're getting 20 to 50 minutes of Star Wars every week,
Yeah.
no one can complain.
No one can complain. But I'll be honest with you. Like, I was a little disappointed when I found out that we
Yeah.
weren't getting hour-long episodes, because I feel like there was a report that said they would be hour-long, and then you get 37 minutes in that first one. You're thinking, oh, I guess it's 37 with commercial, but there is no commercial, so that seems a little silly. But you know what? Let's not be too greedy. 2 episodes in, and we're having a blast with The Mandalorian. Let's go ahead and go to the poll question of this week. You are watching. You are listening to Streaming Star Wars Episode 2. It is November 15th for this Episode 2. And the Star Wars poll question was, how does the debut of Disney Plus and The Mandalorian affect your anticipation for The Rise of Skywalker? Pete, based on the results here, rattle them off real quick if you don't mind. And,
Sure.
Are you kind of surprised by the feedback here? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm surprised that because it's 2 different platforms and it's 2 different types of storytelling, I'm surprised that 53% came out and said they're even more excited.
Yeah, I voted actually for slightly muted. You have 53% of folks saying they're even more excited, 37% unchanged, 5 and 5% saying slightly muted, or the comical, the rise of what now response. To me, it is slightly muted only because I haven't frankly thought about the rise of Skywalker in the last week and a half, because we've been doing the countdown for Disney Plus, waiting for the Mandalorian to hit, and it's muted, and not in a bad way. I'm still, geez, I can't wait. I've made plans for 3 days of that opening weekend with 3 different sets of friends and family. So I am there. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm anticipating it, but I haven't thought about it that much. I've been so concentrated on everything we're getting, not just the Mandalorian, but the other great stuff on Disney Plus that's Star Wars related and otherwise.
Yeah, I'm exactly there with you, Pete, because the focus has been for Disney Plus, and that's the thing too. Was the Mandalorian overshadowed by the release of Disney Plus? It kind of felt like one and the same.
Yeah.
And I had a really positive experience. Like I said before, I got the app purchased. I did the three streaming service bundle for $13.99. I got into The Mandalorian. I watched that episode. I watched the other episode today, and I just really enjoyed it. It does not influence how I look at The Rise of Skywalker. I am thrilled. I'm doing my best to avoid the spoilers. We have a few that are surfacing around there. I always encourage you to avoid those.
Yeah, and now that you said spoilers, Dave, if you don't mind, I want to just encourage everybody listening to us or watching this, be really careful. This is a weird situation for all of us, right? So this morning, I luckily for me, I was on at like 6 a.m. watching the show. But if you first thing you do in the morning is check Twitter, somebody's going to have posted a photo or a comment. So just be cool about spoilers, and remember that your fellow fans may or may not have seen it yet. And I don't know what the right rule is for the amount of time you wait for a spoiler, but just be cool about it. And I mean, I still haven't mentioned anywhere other than on this show about Baby Yoda, because to me, in fact, like my daughter came in and watched the chapter 1 with us this morning, or this afternoon rather. And I told Jack, my son, I was like, Jack, don't tell her what's coming. He's like, but it's really cute. I was like, yeah, but she's got to see it herself. So be cool and don't ruin things for folks. I know we're all excited about it. There's ways to talk about it without giving away the big secrets. But sorry, I had to go off on that little tangent.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
It drives me a little bit crazy.
Well, Pete, keep in mind, though, too, we have some Star Wars fans around the globe that aren't going to have access to the show until March of next year.
That's
so
right.
This is really tough. I mentioned that I got to watch episode 1 and 2 with David today. Gilbert is on Beyond the Blast Doors with me Sunday mornings, 11 a.m. Central, here on the YouTube channel. And shameless plug, right? We'll get some Around the Galaxies out there. No problem. Pete's going to talk to you about his merch. We promise. So sorry, that's a joke from when I was on a show. Oh, my gosh. That was inappropriate. I'm offended. Have some tact, man. There's some folks that won't see the show until March. And so, I got video of David reacting to the Baby Yoda in episode 1, and he loses his mind. And I went to put it on Twitter, and then I went, wait, I don't want to fuel the potential of someone having this experience ruined for themselves. And it's the same reason why I really don't like how there's like that bit that da na 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 na.
Yeah.
It's the Rocky theme in Star
Yeah.
Wars, and it sucks. And I wanted to post about it because it pisses me off. But again, that might ruin someone's experience because that beautiful art there during the credits are
Oh, that's great.
scenes. Yeah, they're scenes from the show, and so I don't want to ruin someone. I mean, I could have if I do that. I think I give away the fact that the Razor Crest gets destroyed and there's a Baby Yoda. So I didn't do that, but yeah, I mean, but that's why we have the show. Streaming Star Wars.
Yep.
This is a safe place to talk about spoilers. We were very honest off the top of the show that this is going to always be spoiler heavy. You get here on Friday, you've had a day to watch that episode, and we're going to dive into it as always. Let's go ahead, Pete, and let's give some stuff away. But first things first, we had a giveaway this past week. We asked you to share the show using the hashtag Mando Bounty. Who's our winner of the Mandalorian Black Series figure from Hasbro?
Yeah. So this week we went through and we randomly selected a person who used hashtag Mando Bounty, and this week it is Charlie Skywalker, aka at DJ Blake Jr. 7 on Twitter. Charlie, DJ Blake, Charlie Skywalker. I've spoken to you a couple times on Twitter and beyond, and actually you're a patron over on Around the Galaxy, so thank you very much. And you are going to be getting a Black Series Mandalorian action figure in the mail. So send your address to streamingsw@gmail.com, streamingsw@gmail.com when you hear this or see it. And congratulations, man. That's you've hauled in a pretty decent bounty there.
Absolutely, and it just meant so world. He has been so vocal in the live chat, both shows, all week on social media. A supporter of your show. He came in and hung out with me on Beyond the Blast Doors. So we really appreciate it. So fast forward to this week, and also Tumet2 I think won the live chat giveaway, which was pretty cool. He won that with us on last Friday. So now this week, do you want me to take this part, or Pete, or do you want to take the lead on this? You want to?
No, you run with it. Go for it.
Okay, I'm going to run with it. Okay, here we go. This is dangerous. I'm a little stressed out, and I'm out of my whiskey. So we're going to do the best that we can. No, just kidding. We're doing fine here on episode 2 of Streaming Star Wars. So glad that you're with us for this live Star Wars conversation, or catching us on the rewind. It's always fun to talk Star Wars with you. So the giveaway, this is how it always works. There's 3 ways where you can enter, and the hashtag is hashtag I like those odds. So a throwback to the very beginning of Chapter 1, but hashtag I like those odds, unless Pete tells me in my ear that I'm not allowed to use that hashtag. But I think it's okay. Okay, we're going to go with it. Straight. So here's the 3 ways. 1, 2, 3. 3 ways that you can enter this giveaway. And the giveaway for this week-long giveaway is I picked a hashtag from Chapter 1. I'm going to pick a toy that's a reference to Episode 2, Chapter 2 of The Mandalorian. I'm going to put this Black Series Walmart exclusive Ghost Force Spirit Yoda up there for the week giveaway. Pretty cool figure. I like this one. It's very reminiscent of the Obi-Wan Black Series figure that was a Walgreens exclusive. However, I like that they made the Yoda here blue with the robes instead of putting a blue, glittery, transparent robe around the figure like they did with Obi-Wan. So this is a really sweet figure. This could be yours. We'll pick the winner here for this contest next week. How do you enter? You have to, after we stop the live stream of this show, you will come back. You'll just refresh your page. We will say, that's it for for episode 2 of Streaming Star Wars. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here next week with a special guest that we'll announce by Wednesday. Yada, yada, yada. Follow us on Twitter. We'll do the whole end tag thing, right? Once we go end and you see that the live stream has ended, you refresh your page and then you comment down with your favorite moment of the show or your biggest question about the show, about The Mandalorian. You have to use the hashtag I like those odds. So you refresh, you comment down below on the video on the rewind, then you can share this episode on Twitter, the YouTube episode on Twitter using the hashtag I like those odds. And the third way to enter this competition or this free giveaway is you go over to Around the Galaxy, the podcast stream tomorrow, and you share the audio version, the podcast form of our show that P will upload on the Around the Galaxy. And again, you can listen to that wherever you find podcasts. I'll even throw the graphic up here real quick just so you remember You can watch it on the Rewind on the Beyond the Blast Doors YouTube channel, but you can listen to it wherever you can find Around the Galaxy podcast, all listening platforms. Wherever you can download a podcast, you can find streaming Star Wars. So those are the 3 ways that you can do this. And I think that's a really killer giveaway. Again, Force Spirit Yoda. I'm trying not to kill you with glare as the light reflects, but pretty cool. It doesn't have a number. If you look here on the side, so if you collect the Black Series figures, it's really cool. You're seeing some white cases here recently. You're getting the blue cases here now, as opposed to the traditional red and black. So pretty cool. So again, comment on the Rewind as soon as we finish with the live stream, or whenever you get to watch during the rest of the week. I know, like Patrick Covey, for example, he won't be able to watch until like Monday or Tuesday, so he'll comment down under the video, and then you can tweet out either the YouTube version of the show or the audio podcast version using hashtag I like those odds. But Pete, we don't just give away items on the. We don't just give away items over the course of the week. We like to reward those who join us in the live chat.
Absolutely.
Don't you know?
Yes. What are we giving away today? Last week, like we said, 2Med2 he should be receiving his pop in the mail shortly. What are we giving away today, David?
So I think we're going to go as Mandalorian theme as we can go, okay? And so this is what I got, and you can tell me this. I think this is pretty cool, actually. This is a Boba Fett plush collectible with a really sweet pin. And I'm going to try and hold this back so that way you can see it. But a really cool freebie here for the live chat, and every week we're going to get a little bit bigger. I'm not telling you when, but I bought the AT-ST, the Raider, the Lego Raider, valued at $40. We're going to give that bad boy away at some point during the first season of The Mandalorian. But for tonight, we're giving away this cool plushie. This is Boba Fett. You might have seen him in the very first episode of The Mandalorian in the background before The Mandalorian got his armor upgraded, and you get this really cool pin. I'm going to be honest. I bought this for the pin. This would look really good on the lapel of a jacket. Maybe you're going into a job interview. No, don't do that. But no, this would look really good. Honestly, you're at Star Wars Celebration. This would look really good on your lanyard or on your backpack. So here we go. Here is this.
Dave, you could have just taken that off and nobody would have known. You could have just given away the plush.
No. This is.
See, I'm a horrible human being. So I apologize.
Listen, I'm transparent for a living. Listen. Right now, I'm getting hate mail for a story I did this past week. On illegal immigration, and so I'm trying to be transparent with everybody right now because I want you to love me. I want you to be my friend. So I'm going to be honest with you. That is the giveaway. Pete, do we have a trivia question that we can ask the good people in the live chat to answer?
That's a good one.
Or do you want me to ask the question? I mean, that's
if you have one, yeah, go ahead. I thought I was gonna make one up, but go for it.
Okay, so
get ready to type, people. Get ready to type.
Yeah, no, this is gonna be good. So there's been a lot of discussion about. Go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the way we do this is the first person to correctly answer in the chat will be the winner. So listen closely, get those typing fingers ready, and go for it. Go ahead with the question there, Dave.
We've been talking a lot about Yoda, right? And how
yes, we have.
What is the connection between Yoda and this infant that looks like Yoda? And Yaddle has come up in the conversation as well. We know that Yaddle is also the same species as Yoda, obviously. And we know that Yoda was 900 years old when he died. But my question is, what is the special power that Yaddle had that she was allowed to use that no other Jedi was allowed to use? Answer in the live chat here on Beyond the Blast Doors. Do you know the answer to this, Pete?
It's funny. I did some research on Yaddle after seeing Chapter 1, and there was something. I just don't recall what it was.
Oh, well, that really lets me down.
She got a very specific power, I believe, right?
She did have a very special power. We're watching the live chat right now.
Oh, wait. Framey says can slow life down. Is that correct?
Framey? You are correct. Oh, was that too loud? That was probably too loud.
That was. I sounded good in my ears.
Oh
Dave.
gosh, I'm sorry. Full transparency, my fiance is in the other room sleeping right now, so I think I just woke her up. But I'm really overjoyed, and you win this awesome plush figure with the collector's pin. Really excited for you. So here we go, Frammy. This is what I need you to do. That was a tough question. I'm going to have to find a question just as tough for when we give away that Lego set. Frammy, what we need you to do is email us at streamingsw, right? streamingsw@gmail.com. We need you to send your mailing information to us so that I can get this thing into your mail by Wednesday this week. I want you to have it for the weekend. And we both just ask, when you get this in the mail, make sure you post a selfie on Twitter with your prize. Let them know what show you won this on and invite people to join us the next week. So congratulations again, Framey, for winning this. And again, I like those odds. Hashtag I like those odds. You can win this figure right here.
That's right. And I hope Amy's doing great, Framey. I know you guys were traveling this week, so I hope she's feeling better. So that's great news. And thank you all for hanging out with us tonight and asking questions, and thank you to Clayton for hanging out again longer than we asked him to. That's 2 guests in a row, Dave. We must not be quite as annoying as we thought we might be, because these guys, they don't want to leave. They're having so much fun.
Yeah, I think that's a good sign, though, because I felt a little bad last week with Anthony, and then we went a little bit longer here with Clayton. But if they're not upset, I mean, by all means, let's keep them around, because I think that's one of the reasons why people like our show is that we're getting people in the industry that have a front row seat. They're speaking with the folks that are involved directly with these projects, and so hey, we'll take 10 minutes, but if you give us 35, clearly we can fill the time. So here on Streaming Star Wars, where usually it's a professional courtesy to respect your time, we just kind of whore you out. Okay, so we got to talk about what's next here for Streaming Star Wars and Disney Plus content for Star Wars. And, of course, we know things like Clone Wars isn't until February. We're not getting Kenobi until next year. I mentioned Kenobi for this reason. Deborah Chow is the one that directs the episode out November 22nd here for The Mandalorian Chapter 3, Episode 3, right? And so Deborah Chow is also going to be the director of the entire Kenobi series that will come out, we think, sometime late 2020. So really excited for that show. And Pete, as we close this thing out, what do you think happens in Episode 3?
Here's the thing. I can't say, because I actually know a little bit of what happens in Episode 3. Because
do we both know? Because we might have talked to somebody that was in the show.
Did we talk to the guy who's going to be our guest next week? So we have. If you listened to Around the Galaxy this past week, you heard Dominic Pace, and Dominic Pace is going to join us on the show next week. I won't say what he told us in complete confidence, but I will say I think next week's going to be a really good episode, and I am psyched, and I think you're all going to want to tune in, because we are going to talk about what happens in next week's episode with somebody who was in next week's episode, Dominic Pace, who plays the Gecko bounty hunter, a side character created just for this show, and he's going to join us, and I'm really excited. For those of you who haven't heard Dominic on either my show or a number of other podcasts out there, he's just such a genuine good guy. Been working, he calls himself a blue-collar actor, and he's got this opportunity to be in Star Wars as a character in The Mandalorian, and he's gonna play a slightly bigger role than a background character in this week, and we are going to have him Friday. So watch the show. Join us on next Friday night to hear from him. Have your questions ready, and we're really excited for him and for you guys and for us to be able to talk to him next week.
Yeah, it's going to be probably, he's been on several shows, but this is going to be his first opportunity to talk about the episode. So we're really excited about it. Timing is everything in the Star Wars galaxy, and it's also timing is everything when you're doing Star Wars live shows, podcasts, etc. So we're really excited for Dominic to spend time with us. And again, when you think about the slate of guests that we've had on Streaming Star Wars so far, top notch. A lot of hard work behind the scenes. Pete, you're doing awesome. I'm just happy that, David, you just get us on air sometimes. Good job, buddy. That was
David is, yes. I mean, seriously, without David's expertise and just his hard work to get the show up, we wouldn't be here with you guys.
God, you're so full of it. You're so full of it. You're like that. You're so full of it. No, I'm just kidding. That was really genuine. That was really good. It has been a lot of fun. We have gone almost an hour longer than we planned. But it was such a loaded episode. We had two episodes.
We had 2 episodes.
We visited with Clayton for like 45 minutes. It goes up every time. If we kept doing this episode for another 30 minutes, it'd be like, well, we talked with Clayton for an hour and a half. It was a lot of fun.
I can't believe Clayton spent the night at David's house. That was
yeah, sleepover with Dave Filoni. Isn't that like, of all the things that could be dropped on this show, like we should have tweeted that out. A breaking news, Clayton Sandell has a sleepover with Dave Filoni, and they talk about the inclusion of canon across the Star Wars galaxy and Star Wars. It's like that was awesome. Well, it's also like, Yeah, it was that was a special moment to be shared, and what a tease! Because now I want to know what the hell he's working on for ABC News. I guess that's going to drop on Good Morning America. I don't know. He
I
didn't
think
tell us
whatever
anything.
it is going to be a blast. He does such a great job. He brings the fan to the fandom. This is great.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. Big thanks to everyone in the live chat joining us for episode 2 of streaming Star Wars. Frammy, Mr. Rez. Who would want this name? Steve. Pete Fletcher. Pete's right here. Don't have to thank
Hi.
him.
How are you?
Mr. Rez. We got Frammy. We have Nick Melky with us as well. Super cool to see him. I'm looking over my microphone so I can make sure I get everybody. Marie Wilson. Marie just put a great comic book review on BeyondTheBlastDoors.com. Go ahead and check her out. She just did a great preview, and she's going to be doing the Rise of Kylo Ren comic series coming up here in December, so be sure you're following that. I don't want to miss anybody. We had the Bad podcast in the live chat for a while. We had several others. I'm going to miss people. Roll Farm Boy was in there. So just a big thanks to everyone hanging out. Pete, anything you need to tell the good people before we get the hell out of here?
Yeah, we do have a new episode of Around the Galaxy hitting on Tuesday. It's going to be a fun little episode. It's a little shorter than our regular episodes. It's, no pun intended, it's with a woman who actually played a Jawa in 1977's Star Wars. She's got a fun little story about how she was plucked from her class to go and play a Jawa for a day on the set in 1976. So it's a fun little episode, and that'll be on Tuesday as we normally drop them. And of course, this episode of Streaming Star Wars will be part of the Around the Galaxy podcast stream. And so thank you so much to all of you who listen and join us here in the live chat. It means a lot to see you guys here and on the Twitters every day.
That's awesome. 17 people gave a thumbs up to this episode, so thank you to those 17 folks. Again, thanks to those people in the live chat. Want you to know that we will be live. I believe it will be this Sunday at 11 a.m. Central here on Beyond the Blast Doors YouTube channel. We will be together again, at least 2/3 of the crew. Jesse has fully recovered from his injury. So happy for him, I should say. Back to work. He'll be back on the show. This man is going to... I can't actually say what I was about to say about Jesse, but he is going to gush over the Mandalorian. He hasn't been on the show for 5 weeks because of his surgery and his recovery. So this is going to be his first time to be on the show and talk about the Mandalorian. I cannot wait to ask him about the lore bits that we get about the Mandalorian in these first 2 chapters. It's going to be awesome to hear him talk about it. So be sure you join us. And if you can, he's on Twitter. And I want to make sure that I get this right real quick because he's my buddy. And if you talk about somebody who just really loves Star Wars, I want people to go out there and reach out to him and tell him, hey, so excited that you're going to be back on the show, or just join us on Sunday in the live chat. Just do that. Get in the live chat and let this guy know that he's loved, because he is part of the fuel that the fans, this fandom, this Star Wars fandom. He's just so genuine. I think back to Star Wars Celebration. He was just so damn excited to be there and be visiting with fans, and I'm just glad to have him back on the show. So Gilbert's out of town, but we'll be talking about all things Mandalorian. We'll also be talking about J.J. Abrams taking risks with Episode 9, Rian Johnson doing the right thing and telling people against diversity to F off, because unfortunately, people are crappy in this world, and they don't appreciate those things. So we'll talk about all that. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna get controversial and a little racy. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But this was episode 2 of Streaming Star Wars. Pete, it's been a lot of fun, bud.
Same here, man. Good to talk to you, and I can't wait to speak to everybody next week.
That's right. It is episode 2 of Streaming Star Wars with Ammo and Fletcher. Again, a big thank you to ABC national correspondent Clayton Sandell for joining us, and a big thank you to everyone joining us for the live chat. If you did miss this live show, that you can always watch us on the rewind on the YouTube channel, Beyond the Blast Doors YouTube channel. You can also listen to the podcast version of the show, where you can find the Around the Galaxy podcast stream. That's, of course, wherever you can find podcasts. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Streaming Star Wars. I'm Ammo, he's Fletcher, and we will see you soon here on Streaming Star Wars. It's been a heck of a time. May the Force be with you.